York is the most densely populated city in the United States and is known for its fast-paced life as a pinnacle of both capitalism and entertainment. The city is also important for its art, as known from the movements like the Harlem Renaissance and abstract expressionism. This story of underground street art is something that may not be as well known, but holds great importance because of its influence on the rest of the world.
The beginning of this story starts with something that is highly linked with New York's culture, jazz. Charlie Parker was the saxophonist responsible for being a founding father of the bebop jazz genre. After his death in 1955, multiple carvings into streets and walls around New York contains the words, "Bird lives." This is a statement that reflects on the jazz musician's nickname, which was Yardbird, or in this case, Bird for short. This was the first small incident of graffiti.
Skipping forward to the 1970s, there began to be appearances of the writings Talkie 183 all around the streets of Washington Heights. These writings became so frequent they caught the media's attention. The New York Times wrote an article about the competitive tagging scene, with more artists doing the same thing. The man named Talkie became famous shortly after his work and is known as the father of graffiti to many people that know the story.
I think they give me that name because it's a very basic graffiti. It's not unique. It stood out from other similar graffiti, and that's the only reason. And as I said, the media propped it up. They made the Talkie Awards, all kinds of things.
From this idea of leaving one's name on the streets for others to view, more people started to join the art, creating the dawn of a new form of graffiti called wild style. This was a new look for tagging because it involved uses of multiple colors and complex lettering to present your artist's name. This style of tagging became popular in the New York scene in the late 70s and early 80s because of its complexity and involvement of skill from the artist. It is so popular that nearly anyone who has been to a city has viewed something like it before.
These art pieces were seen in the Washington Heights area where graffiti became popular. But this scene now spread to the Bronx, where artists such as Fab Five Freddy helped connect hip-hop with the graffiti culture. Although there was wild style on multiple street corners, the real focus by artists was putting their name on subway cars, which could be used as moving canvases to present to the rest of New York. The art spread to all corners of the city, and with it carried an invitation for other people to take up the art form. As more people began to join in, more ideas were brought to the walls of the city. Tagging was not the only source of graffiti, as more cartoons and paintings became frequent.
So graffiti writers tend to write a lot on the trains, and at one time it was so a writer could see his name from one end of the city to the other end of the city in all 5 boroughs, or whichever way the subway line would run. So is that still the same feeling with graffiti writers? Do they still actually go to the yards and paint the trains? Do you continue to do that?
Some graffiti writers are more dedicated than other graffiti writers, and some people take it more seriously than others. Some graffiti writers take it to the level of going all city because that's what they strive for and that's what they want to be.
But the fame of the activity was its downfall. The New York Transit Authority, as well as both mayors John Lindsay and Ed Koch, led movements and actions to remove graffiti from the streets, in particular, the subway system. They figured out it would be their priority to remove the subway cars and replace them with new ones, and also heighten subway security with police officers and canines.
That's the only reason that these graffiti writers, or artists if you want to call them, although I don't consider them to be artists, did what they did was so they could see it. And if they didn't see it, they'd stop doing it. So by taking the car out of use immediately, that interrupted the situation to the point where the graffiti writers stopped doing what they did.
After the government had successfully implanted these systems, subway graffiti became harder and almost brought an end to the art form.
But as graffiti was trying to be brought down in New York, the law could not stop the spread of this creativity as it was beginning to be seen all around the US. Graffiti became popular in all major cities as an art form that was not for profit but simply for creativity itself. Cities like Los Angeles and Chicago saw their own scenes and their own artists arose.
In Europe, artists like Blake Lerat used stenciling to create beautiful and realistic graffiti faster in the streets of Paris. It became easier to recognize the artist's work because of their signature stencils. Banksy in London produced the same style but with more political undertones, which began a new path for graffiti art, especially because of its illegal nature.
Though New York artists suffered a major blow from the authorities, this did not stop the epicenter of the art to stop. People found other places to make their mark, and some even began making galleries for people to view their pieces in.
Graffiti is honest, illegal, and for some ugly, but presents a city's true colors. The evolution of this underground art form is something that has changed urban culture as we know it.